What's going on, everybody? It's Andy here and welcome to a slightly different video this week. We're doing a Game Week 31 Q&A. I like to do these when I can, don't always get around to it just due to time, but this week we've got a bit more time. Just as a little caveat, it's currently 3 PM on Monday afternoon when I'm recording this. Got some questions from Twitter and YouTube which I want to get through. This is the only time I'm going to get to record this week, so got to do it now. Obviously, Man City and Stoke won't have played yet. They're playing this evening, so potentially there's some fallout from that game. For instance, if Shaqiri was to get injured or something like that, then that would be big news that we'd have to talk about. But luckily we've got previews and another stream this week to go through that. And if I miss anything out here, or if there is some news that develops throughout the week, just leave a comment below, let me know your questions, and I'll try and get through as many as I can. Otherwise, yeah, let's just jump straight into this. We've got a few questions. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. I know sometimes I let these videos drag on. Hopefully not today. So yeah, we'll get straight into it now. So MN Conde asked, what should we do with Aguero and Kane if they're out long-term injured? If you don't already know, Aguero tweeted out over the weekend that he's got a knee problem from training, likely to be out for a couple of weeks. We don't have a definite time frame yet. And then similar for Kane, he went down injured against Bournemouth, came off after about 30 minutes with an ankle injury. Now the pictures we've seen of his ankle don't look good. His foot was almost at a 90-degree angle to his leg, which just can't be good. But obviously these are top athletes, they've got the top physios available to try and get them back into the game, and you'd hope that he'll be back after a few weeks. So right now, as we record this, we're waiting on time frames for them both. I just think with the fixtures they've got, so Kane, for example, plays Chelsea in Game Week 32 and has a blank in 31, so I think you could get rid of him. You could get someone like Wilson, maybe, Mounier, Tozen right now, for the blank, and then if you wanted to, you could take a punt in Game Week 32 on Aubameyang, who you might not even consider a punt, to be fair, because Arsenal got good fixtures and a double, so he looks much better now. Aguero, I think, slightly different. I think I'd be more inclined to definitely get rid of him because Jesus is back now. Hopefully Sterling will be back too. You've got to expect some rotation with them being in Europe, chasing that and pretty much having the league wrapped up. It's not done yet, so I'm not expecting full-on rotation just yet from Pep, but in a few weeks when it is wrapped up or near enough, we might see the rotation start to happen as they concentrate more on Europe. So they're both players that are very expensive. I don't think we can hold these players in our team. We don't have many game weeks left now. We've got to start making decisions, getting players in that we think are going to score points. And if they're both out long term, they've both got to go. For me, I only have Kane, and I'll be getting rid of him this week. I should have said in the intro, apologies if I butcher any names, but David Cillian on Twitter asks, which fullback's more attacking, Coleman and Baines? Everton might be without Sigurdsson and Walcott. What are the odds that the Stoke and Everton game ends 0-0? So let's take each part of that individually. So yes, Everton might be without Sigurdsson and Walcott. Walcott went off now. Him and Big Sam both said it was just cramp, so hopefully he'll be back. It looked like his hamstring at first. We'll have to wait for more news on that. Sigurdsson, this morning reports have come out that he may miss the rest of the season, let alone just this week. And you've got to think, if they're already looking at potentially missing the whole season, that he's definitely going to miss this Stoke game. So if you've got either of those two players, you really need to look for news and start thinking about how you're going to get rid of them. The odds of a 0-0, possibly. I mean, Stoke have been doing pretty good, especially at home with Shaqiri. Everton have been poor on the road, but they've got players back now. They've got Coleman back, Jagielka's back in the team, Baines is back as well, Tozen's on good form. In the last couple of games, he's got a couple of goals. So, you know, the fact they've maybe got a little bit more attacking threat now will maybe worry Stoke a little bit more than it would before. So I don't know if it will end 0-0. I think there's a couple of goals in this game, but I don't expect it to be too high scoring. That being said, Coleman and Baines, like I say, are now back. People are looking at them. Quite interesting how this has kind of come about. First of all, people were looking at Coleman because he played against Burnley and Baines didn't. Then Baines comes back against Brighton, gets an assist and 3 bonus points, finishes on 12. And suddenly everyone's looking at Baines. Now, in that game as well, Rooney took a penalty against Brighton and missed it. So with Sigurdsson potentially out, Rooney hopefully off penalties, he's not very good at them. It really just leaves Baines and Tozen. And Baines has got such a good record, there's a chance that he gets a penalty, and if they get one against Stoke, you'd be looking good. That's the kind of thing you want in a blank game week, a defender with attacking potential, and Baines has definitely got that. Now, which one's more attacking? Generally, people would say Coleman, and I'd probably agree. It's very hard to compare them on this season alone because Coleman's missed so much. The game against Brighton, Baines had more touches in the box, but Coleman actually had a shot, whereas Baines didn't. But Baines got in and got the assist. Now, from the eye test, kind of Coleman went forward a bit more, I'd say, in the first half, Baines in the second. So they're quite similar. Price doesn't really make a huge difference in the blanks because we've probably got quite a lot of money saved up. So for me, I'm probably siding with Baines because he's maybe got penalties. I think they're both good for assists. Coleman possibly more potential to get a goal from open play. But I just think Baines on those penalties kind of swings it for me now. So Neil Kernahan on YouTube asks, are Bournemouth or Huddersfield players a better bet for this week? You're thinking of defenders and attackers. So I think depending on the position, yeah, one or the other is probably better. So defensively, I wouldn't ever back Bournemouth. I've got Francis in my team. I'm not too confident of a clean sheet, although it is West Brom who are the worst team in the league. They look destined for relegation at this point. I don't think Pardew's got any ideas of how to rectify that happening. So West Brom look like they're going to get relegated. So it's a good time to play them, I'd say, for Bournemouth. Even though you'd think West Brom have maybe got a bit of fight about them, it's not really looking that way at the moment. So I probably wouldn't go for a Bournemouth defender, but attacking-wise, I think Stanislas looks really good as a midfield option. I think he's got the potential to haul. Up front it's tricky because King didn't play from the start against Spurs, but that was because of a neck injury that he'd had all week. So the fact that he got on in the second half is a good sign that he could start next week, so he could be an option. And then up front you've got Wilson. I know people are really not liking Wilson right now. He's not playing very well. Stats aren't great, but again, it is West Brom. And I feel like on his day, Wilson's got the opportunity to absolutely haul. We've seen him get hat-tricks in the past. So I would definitely not rule out Wilson completely. And then going over to Huddersfield, I think defensively a much better bet. They've got Crystal Palace. Zaha's back, which is a problem, I think, for Huddersfield. I think if Zaha was out, you'd definitely bet on a Huddersfield clean sheet. With him back, it gets a bit tougher. But I think a Huddersfield defender like Schindler might be okay. And then Mounier is a different option to Wilson up front, looks good. His stats have been pretty good recently. Huddersfield don't score a good too many amount of goals, but if they're going to, I think Mounier is going to be the one to get them or be involved in some way. Midfield-wise, some of us have got like Van Lepara, Pritchard. I think they're a bit risky. I think there's much better midfield picks for the blank game week. So I'd be looking at Mounier, Wilson and King from Bournemouth, Stanislas as well, and then defensively, definitely Huddersfield, not Bournemouth. The Nags Head Redding on Twitter asks, what's the least amount of players you would need to have before I considered using a free hit chip? He's got 4 with 2 free transfers. So I think one thing to say is it definitely depends on the quality of player you've got as well as the number. So to give my own team as an example, I've got Crouch. Now, Juve is out. We'll see how he plays against Man City. But before this week, I wasn't really considering Crouch as a player, even though he had a game, because he probably wasn't going to play. Similar for Iep, he looks like he's probably going to get benched now, so he's not going to start. So if you've got a lot of those kind of players that aren't guaranteed to play, don't have good fixtures, then I'd say you're in a bit more trouble than if you've got really good quality players like Shaqiri, Baines, Coleman, Mounier and players like that. So it would depend on your team how many you've got. I think you're okay. You can, even if you took a hit to get for a -8, you could get 4 players in this week, bringing you up to 8. I think the majority of people are going to go somewhere between 6 and 8. Yes, more is nice. I think there's a few differentials. These players are low owned. I think some people underestimate how much gain can be made in a blank game week. But yeah, there could be some low-scoring games, so you don't need to worry about getting 11 players. In your situation, if you've got 4 good players already, I think take a 4 or 8 point hit this week, and that would bring you up to 7 or 8 players, and I think you're looking good. You can hold that free hit and use it later in the season where hopefully it'll be more beneficial to you, and maybe something like Game Week 35. So Jack Nash on YouTube asks, who are the best 3 strikers to get for Game Week 31? Now, I'm not going to be around the bush. Firmino's obviously number 1. I'm not even going to get into why that is. I think it's quite obvious. And then there's about 8 other strikers you could look at. So you've got Mounier, Rondon, Tosun, Sola, Benteke, Deeney, King and Wilson. I think are the 8 strikers you could look at. So I'm going to discount a few straight away. I think Crystal Palace, Benteke came off tactical reasons. I'm not sure if you're going to go for in a Palace game where I think Huddersfield have got a good chance at a clean sheet. I probably wouldn't be looking at too many of their attackers. And with Zaha back, I'd probably want him. So I would straight away probably not go for Benteke or Sola. Deeney's not someone I want to get against Liverpool because I think there's a clean sheet that could happen there. Yes, he's on penalties, but for me, he counts out. So then you're really looking at the last 5. Mounier, Rondon, Tosun, King and Wilson. So I think stats-wise, Mounier and Rondon look probably the best right now. Mounier was quite unlucky not to score in Game Week 30. I think Huddersfield, if they're going to score, like I said earlier, they're going to come through him. And they've got Palace at home, which I think is a good fixture right now. Palace are not in the greatest of form. So I think Mounier is a pretty good option. And then Rondon, he kind of flatters to deceive stats-wise. He doesn't always back up his stats with goals. But if West Brom are going to do something, if they are going to try and stop this relegation, then they need to do something soon, and he could be the one. And like again I said earlier, Bournemouth are pretty good at conceding goals. They don't keep many clean sheets. And like I said, I've got a defender from Bournemouth. I'm not confident of a clean sheet at all. So Mounier and Rondon stats-wise look pretty good. Then you've got Tosun, who's been doing better recently. 2 goals in the last 2 games. The problem with Everton is they've been rubbish away from home for most of the season. Yes, Baines and Coleman are back, but if Sigurdsson and potentially Walcott are going to miss out, then suddenly they've got less attacking threat and less than they already had, which wasn't very much at all. So Tozen would be an outside bet for me right now, I think. Mounier and Rondon probably slightly ahead. And then King and Wilson are really interesting because stats-wise, they've not really done a lot in recent times. Wilson looks still to be first choice, started against Spurs. I think he did okay, he got the full 90 minutes. We've seen that he can get big scores on his day. They're playing West Brom. There's not many teams you'd rather play right now, I don't think. So I would still look at them. So to sum it up, Mounier, Rondon, King didn't play in the last game, which is a bit of a problem, which I already mentioned. Well, he did play, but he didn't start, so I'm not sure about him. Personally, I think Mounier and Rondon, looking at the stats, are the best, but I would not bet against Wilson getting a big score in that game week. So no names for this one, but a few people asked me what my free hit team would look like if I was using the chip in this week. So I've gone for a couple of options. The team on the left is more of a cover all basis strategy. The team on the right is target certain teams and certain positions to go for maximum points. So obviously you want the most points in both scenarios, but the one on the right probably has a slightly higher ceiling, but is a bit more risky. One on the left is probably more risk adverse. So, you know, you've got the three Liverpool players in both teams, obviously. Salah and Firmino, I think, are no-brainers. And then really it's Mane or a defender. You could argue which way. I've gone for Mane. I'm hoping that's a big win against Watford. They put in a big score and I get lots of points. And then in defence, you've got Butland in goal. I think he's the best goalkeeper this week. Probably got as good a chance as anyone else of getting a clean sheet. Plus he's got saves in his locker, so he's in. And so's Bauer. I've actually doubled up on Stoke in this game. And then Van Arnott, we've seen get a couple of attacking returns in the last few games, so I like the look of him. And then you could have Coleman or Baines. I think, yes, maybe not a clean sheet with Shaqiri there. It's sometimes a bit of an issue them playing against each other, but there's only 8 matches. You're going to have that in your team. You're going to have players playing against each other for the most part. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, especially if the defenders have got attacking potential. So Coleman, I think him or Baines, I'd probably side with Baines, but you could go Coleman too. And then in midfield, you've pretty much got the standard players again. Shaqiri, who's been in good form. We'll see what he does against Man City tonight. Then you've got Stanislas and Zaha. Zaha's back. I like him as a bit of a punt against that Huddersfield defence. And then up front, the only real other contentious decision is whether to go Wilson. I still like him against West Brom. But when I look at the stats, I do think Rondon or Mounier could do better, like I've already said. So that's kind of an all-round, cover-all basis type of team. And on the right, you have a kind of all-out, target certain games, hope for certain results, and go all in. So you've got triple Stoke defence. So if you think that Everton haven't got good attacking potential, especially away from home, and you think Stoke are going to get a clean sheet, then triple up on them and absolutely target that clean sheet. Now, because most people are going to go for Firmino, Salah and Mane, there's almost no question about captain this week. Everyone's going to go for Salah. You're probably not going to get too punished by going for a team like this, but it's got potentially high returns. If Stoke and Huddersfield are only the 2 teams that get a clean sheet apart from Liverpool this week, and you've got 5 of their defenders, then you look really good. So I've got double Huddersfield defence and triple Stoke. And then basically up front, I've only gone for 2 teams in my attack, and I've basically targeted the fact that obviously Liverpool are going to do well against Watford, and then Bournemouth are going to do really well against West Brom. And if they do, I think King, Wilson and Stanislas are the ones to get. Now, that definitely isn't a risk-free approach, because as soon as there's goals in the other games, especially by the slightly higher-owned players like Shaqiri, that could be a problem. And obviously if Bournemouth lose 1-0 to West Brom, then you look like a bit of an idiot. But if you think that those teams will do really well in those positions, so for clean sheets for Stoke and Huddersfield and attacking returns for Liverpool or Bournemouth, you could go for an all-out attack approach like that and just nail those fixtures. It depends. I would probably side with the one on the left, but if you're feeling a bit risky, go for the one on the right. So Stephen Wood, again on YouTube, asked, what have you learned for next season when planning for a future blank game week? He thinks players like Walcott have trolled people, and otherwise they would have got rid of them if there wasn't this blank game week coming up. And you've pretty much nailed it. I think what I've done this season is what I learned last season, which was you shouldn't focus solely on the blank game weeks. Last 3 weeks I had Eriksen and Mahrez. I could have gone for blank game week players, but instead I bought them in. I thought I'd target the 3 fixtures. Yes, Eriksen didn't do amazing. 2 assists in 3 games. It's not great, but it's still better than a lot of blank players did. And then Mahrez, we've seen, I think he's got something like 23 or 24 points over those games. So he's done me really well. So what I haven't done is completely target them. Now, I've had some players on the fringes like Francis who I've been able to bench. I got him a long time ago. Obviously, I kept him, but I didn't really hinder my team by keeping any other players. I didn't bring Walcott in too early. I only got him in game week 30. Same with Baines the week before, because I thought that he had a good fixture. Obviously, he didn't play, but I thought he had a good fixture against Burnley, and then 2 more nice fixtures going into the blank. So I say don't just focus on the blank game weeks. There's other points to be had. Sometimes people just, for the 3 or 4 weeks running up to the blanks, they only bring in players that are going to play, and that can really hurt. You've got to look for the form ones. I think actually it was made a lot easier this season because we knew straight away we're going to have 3 Liverpool players. So if you think that you only need 7 or 8 players for a blank game week, and 3 of them are already Liverpool players, and you can bring them in at pretty much any point, I think that made it a lot easier this year to do it. So you've got to look at the quality of the player for sure. Am I bringing someone in only for that one game, which is 4 weeks away, or do they have good fixtures and good form running up to it? Obviously, people got on Shaqiri and he's done really well. So it's not a case of don't get any blank players. You just got to get the right ones. And sometimes that's difficult. Obviously, that's the whole point of the game. If it was that easy, we'd be able to get to the #1 rank super easy. But it's not that easy. You've got to make these decisions. And for me, next season, I'll take a very similar approach. I'll look to bring in blank players where I think it's viable, but I will not ignore other players who've got really good fixtures. And I think the biggest one in recent weeks that's shown that is Mahrez. Great fixtures, good form, he's got the points, and if you didn't get him in because of blank players, you're probably hurting right now. So at Frank Sales on Twitter asks, when am I wildcarding and why? And the goal always with these the Q&As or any live streams I do, I always want to try and give the definite answer. I think for this one I'm going to struggle. So obviously it's game week 32 or 33 for me. I've got all my chips remaining, so I need to use the bench boost in the double game week. I want to use the triple captain in the double game week, and the free hit will be in 35. So I don't have too many weeks to wildcard. So it's going to be 32 or 33. Now originally it was going to be game week 32 for a couple of reasons. One, to get rid of all the dross from game week 31. And also to set up for game week 34. And the other key thing, if you wildcard in 32, is you can save a transfer in 33, because obviously you've set your team up for a good few weeks. And then in game week 34, if any issues have happened, you've got 2 transfers. Now in game week 33, the beauty is you've got the full amount of info before you set your team up for the double game week, which should be in game week 34. Obviously that's not confirmed yet, but that's when we think it will be. So right now, I'm kind of siding with going for game week 33. Wait until I've got the full amount of knowledge. I'll get rid of Kane for the blank and bring in someone like Meunier, Rondon, Wilson. And then in game week 32, I'll take a punt on someone like Aubameyang. Now, before Kane got injured, that looked like something I wanted to do, because then I'd want Kane back on the wildcard. But the difference is now, if someone like Kane is out long term, and I'm going to get Aubameyang anyway, then I could just wildcard in game week 32 rather than make that extra transfer and just bring him in right now. So I would say I'm probably siding with game week 32 if Kane's out long term, because I want to get those funds distributed. I might as well spend the money while I can. I think if you've got a wild card, it's the easiest way to do that. And if I was going to take a punt on someone like Aubameyang anyway, and I now want him because he's getting rested by not playing in Europe, he's going to play every Premier League game, and Arsenal have got good fixtures, then I might as well wildcard. So I would also say it depends on what players you've got for game week 31. So for example, if you've got Bournemouth players and they play Watford away in game week 32, that's not too bad. If you've got Everton players, triple Everton like I have right now, they play Man City in game week 32. It's probably not a fixture I want to play them in. And then just a couple of other options. So Crystal Palace players are going to play Liverpool, not great. Stoke are playing Arsenal away, again, not great. So if you've got a lot of these players from 31, you may want to start looking to get rid of them in 32 and set yourself up. But obviously you won't have the full amount of info. The other good thing about game week 32 is over an international break. So if there's injuries and stuff, then the wildcard definitely looks to come into play. So before I was looking at game week 33, before Kane's injury, because I was going to take a punt in 32, who I may not have kept in my wildcard. But now I think that punt will probably become a key asset in my wildcard. Kane's going to free up a lot of money to spend. I think Aubameyang is someone I really want right now. So I'm now siding with the game week 32 wildcard. But as with anything in FPL, that could change really quickly. So if it does, Twitter, follow me on that. Watch the streams, watch the previews, and I'll always let you know my current thinking. But right now, game week 32. So that's it for this Q&A. Thanks very much for all your questions. I know I couldn't get through to everyone, but if there is anything I missed out, let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know what you thought of the answers. Is there anything you strongly disagree with? Do you have a different opinion? Always like to hear from everyone what their thinking is. Obviously, like I said, I've had to record this on Monday, so hopefully there wasn't too many issues coming out of the Man City game. But if there was, we'll cover them throughout the week. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and like. It would be much appreciated. As always, subscribe if you're new around here. We've just hit 8,000 subscribers, so thank you to everyone that subscribed, everyone that supported the videos over the year. It's been really good to have you. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks a lot.